You know that feeling when you see something that just makes your blood boil? When you witness something so wrong that you can't help but stare? That's exactly what happened to me 3 weeks ago, and it changed my entire life in ways I never could have imagined. I'm Mick, and I work maintenance at an office complex downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy. I've been divorced for about 5 years now, no kids of my own, and honestly, most days I just go through the motions. Work, home, TV, sleep, repeat. Not exactly living the dream, but it's my life. That Tuesday afternoon, I was walking back from lunch when I saw her. This stunning blonde woman, probably mid-20s, standing on the sidewalk with her phone out, doing some kind of dance. She was gorgeous, the kind of woman who probably never had to worry about anything in her life. Trendy clothes, perfect makeup, the whole package. But what made me stop and stare wasn't her looks. It was the little girl standing maybe 10 feet away from her, maybe 4 or 5 years old, just watching, waiting. The kid kept trying to get closer, saying "mommy" in this tiny voice, but the woman would wave her off without even looking. "Mommy, I'm hungry." "Not now, baby. Mommy's working." The woman replied, not taking her eyes off her phone screen as she adjusted her pose. I stood there for maybe 15 minutes watching this play out. The woman must have filmed the same dance 20 times, checking each take, adjusting her hair, starting over. Meanwhile, this poor kid just stood there, patient as could be, occasionally trying to get her mother's attention. The whole thing made me sick. Here's this beautiful child, clearly well-behaved, just wanting some basic attention from her mom, and this woman is more interested in whatever social media nonsense she's creating. I found myself thinking about what kind of father I would have been, how I would have given anything to have a kid to care for. That's when the little girl noticed me watching. She had these big, sad eyes, and when they met mine, she gave me this small smile. Something about that moment hit me right in the chest. "I wish someone nice could be my mommy," she said, not to me exactly, but loud enough that I could hear. I felt this weird tingling sensation, like static electricity, but I figured it was just the emotion of the moment getting to me. The woman finally finished her filming, grabbed the kid's hand without really looking at her, and they walked away. I went back to work, but I couldn't stop thinking about that little girl. That night, I had the strangest dreams. Vivid, confusing dreams about being someone else, somewhere else. I woke up feeling groggy and disoriented, like I'd been drugged. Except something was very, very wrong. The first thing I noticed was that my alarm sounded different, muffled somehow. Then I realized my head was buried in what felt like silk instead of my usual cotton pillowcase. The bed was softer than anything I'd ever slept on, and there was this faint floral scent in the air. I tried to sit up and immediately knew something was off. My center of gravity was completely wrong. There was weight on my chest that shouldn't be there, and when I moved, I felt things shift and bounce in ways that made no sense. My hands. My hands were the first thing I really focused on. They were small, delicate, with perfectly manicured nails painted a soft pink. These weren't my hands. These weren't my thick, calloused fingers that I'd known for 43 years. I held them up in front of my face, turning them over, flexing the fingers. The skin was smooth, soft, completely foreign. My arms were different too. Slender, toned, without the hair I'd had since I was a teenager. That's when I noticed my voice. I tried to say, "What the hell?" But what came out was this melodic, feminine sound that made my blood run cold. I scrabbled out of bed, which was harder than it should have been because my whole body felt different. Lighter in some ways, heavier in others. I stumbled across the room, which was definitely not my apartment. Everything was white and pink and expensive looking. The mirror in the bathroom showed me everything I needed to know, and nothing I wanted to see. Staring back at me was the face of the woman from the sidewalk, the influencer, the neglectful mother. Her green eyes, her perfect bone structure, her long golden hair that cascaded past her shoulders. I touched my face, her face, and watched the reflection mirror my movements. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't some weird hallucination. Somehow, impossibly, I was in her body. I stood there for what felt like an hour, just staring, touching my cheek, my neck, running my fingers through the long hair. Everything felt real. Too real. That's when the curiosity got the better of me. I was wearing some kind of silk nightgown, and I found myself slowly lifting it up, needing to see the full extent of what had happened to me. My breath caught in my throat as I revealed legs that were smooth and shapely, completely hairless. I pulled the nightgown over my head and stood there, naked, staring at a body that was the complete opposite of everything I'd known about myself. Where I had always been broad and angular, this body was curved and soft. Where I had been hairy and rough, this was smooth and delicate. I couldn't help but stare at my chest. I'd seen women before, obviously, but never like this, never from this angle, never as an extension of my own consciousness. They were substantial, full, and when I moved, I could feel their weight shifting. I found myself cupping them gently, amazed by how they felt in my new small hands. Looking down, the absence of what I'd lived with for 40 decades was jarring. It was like a fundamental part of my identity had simply vanished, replaced by something entirely foreign. I sat down on the edge of the bathtub, just trying to process the impossibility of it all. "Mommy?" I nearly jumped out of my skin. The little girl from yesterday was standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. I grabbed a towel and wrapped around myself as fast as I could. "Are you okay, Mommy? You're making weird noises." She was real. This was real. Somehow I was in her mother's body, and this child was looking at me like I was supposed to know what to do. Yes, sweetheart. Mommy's fine. Just give me a minute to get dressed, okay?" She nodded and padded back toward what I assumed was her room. I closed the bathroom door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. I had no idea what this woman's name was, what her daughter's name was, where I was, or how any of this was possible. But there was a little girl out there who needed someone to take care of her, and apparently that someone was now me. I looked through the closets, which were packed with more clothes than I'd ever seen in one place. Everything was trendy, clearly expensive, and completely foreign to me. I managed to find what looked like comfortable clothes, leggings and an oversized sweater, and after several failed attempts, figured out how to put on a bra. That was an adventure in itself, trying to understand the mechanics while dealing with a body that felt nothing like my own. The whole process of getting dressed was surreal. The way the fabric felt against my skin, how the clothes hung on my new frame, the strange sensation of long hair tickling my shoulders. Even walking felt different. My hips moved in a way that was completely alien to me. When I finally emerged from the bedroom, the little girl was sitting at a kitchen table, swinging her legs and looking at me expectantly. "I'm hungry, Mommy." Right. Food. I could handle that. I started looking through the kitchen, which was massive and clearly belonged to someone with money. The refrigerator was mostly empty except for some yogurt, expensive-looking juice, and what appeared to be meal replacement shakes. "What do you usually eat for breakfast, honey?" I asked, hoping she'd give me some guidance. "You never make me breakfast," she said, matter-of-factly. "You give me the crackers from the cabinet." That made my heart sink. I found a box of crackers that were apparently her usual morning meal, but I kept looking until I found some actual breakfast food. Eggs, bread for toast, some fruit, basic stuff, but better than crackers. As I cooked, and it was weird being shorter, having to reach up for things that would have been easier before, the little girl watched me with fascination. "Why are you cooking, Mommy?" "Because you need a real breakfast, sweetheart. What's your name?" Mommy's feeling a little confused this morning. She giggled. "You're silly, Mommy. I'm Molly." Molly. At least now I had something to call her.
The next few hours were a crash course in being someone I wasn't. Molly showed me around the apartment, which was clearly expensive and definitely belonged to someone with more money than sense. She pointed out her toys, her room, and various things that Mommy usually doesn't let her touch. It became clear pretty quickly that her real mother was not winning any parenting awards. Molly was used to entertaining herself, eating whatever she could reach, and basically being ignored unless she was needed for social media content. "Do you want to watch TV with me, Mommy?" she asked around lunchtime. "Sure, baby. What do you want to watch?" Her face lit up like I'd offered her the moon. "You want to watch with me?" That broke my heart. This poor kid was so starved for attention that the simple act of sitting together was a big deal. We spent the afternoon on the couch watching cartoons. Molly cuddled up next to me, and I found myself running my fingers through her hair, something that seemed to make her incredibly happy. It felt natural, this protective instinct, even though everything else about my situation was completely unnatural. That evening, after I'd managed to give Molly a real dinner and get her ready for bed, I finally had some time alone to try to process what had happened to me.
I stood in front of the bathroom mirror again, still amazed by the reflection staring back at me. During the day, focused on taking care of Molly, I'd almost forgotten about the body swap. But now, alone with my thoughts, it all came rushing back. I found myself exploring again, trying to understand this new form I was inhabiting. It was fascinating and terrifying at the same time. Every movement felt different. Every sensation was new. When I ran my hands along my arms, my waist, my legs, it was like discovering a completely foreign landscape. In the bedroom, while looking for something to sleep in, I found the drawer that made me blush furiously. Apparently, this woman had quite a collection of intimate items. The discovery was embarrassing, but it also made me curious about what this body was capable of feeling. After making sure Molly was sound asleep, I found myself back in the bathroom, door locked, and exploring sensations I'd never experienced before. Everything was different, more intense, more full body, more overwhelming than anything I'd known as a man. When it was over, I lay on the bathroom floor for several minutes, just trying to catch my breath and process what had just happened. The next few days fell into a routine. I was getting better at the basics: the clothes, the hair, even some simple makeup that I figured out through trial and error. Molly was thriving with the attention I was giving her. We played games, read books, had real conversations. She kept making comments that broke my heart. "I like it when you talk to me, Mommy. You're different now. You're nicer. Are you going to keep being this way?" A week into this new life, I was starting to feel more comfortable in this body. The initial shock had worn off, and I was beginning to understand how to move, how to dress, how to exist as this person. I was also getting used to the way people treated me differently. Men held doors, smiled more, were generally more helpful. Women included me in conversations, complimented my appearance. It was a completely different social experience than I'd ever had. But the most important change was with Molly. She was like a different kid, happier, more talkative, more affectionate. Whatever her mother had been like before, it was clear that this version was a significant improvement. 2 weeks in, while Molly was taking a nap, I found myself looking in the full-length mirror in the bedroom. I was wearing a simple dress that actually fit well, had managed to style my hair in a way that looked decent, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I thought I looked pretty good. At least I'm attractive, I said to my reflection, and the voice that came out was confident, feminine, and completely natural now. That's when it hit me. I wasn't panicking anymore.
I wasn't desperately trying to figure out how to get back to my old life. I was adapting. And more than that, I was starting to like aspects of this new existence. Molly came running into the room a few minutes later, wrapping her arms around my legs. "Mommy, I love you so much. You're the best mommy ever." "I love you too, sweetheart." And I meant it. "Can we stay like this forever?" she asked, looking up at me with those big eyes. I picked her up, something that was much easier in this smaller, lighter body, and held her close. "Would you like that, baby?" "Yes. You never ignore me anymore. You play games with me and make me food and give me hugs. My old mommy never did that." Her old mommy. She was talking about her real mother like she was a different person, which I suppose she was.
That night, after putting Molly to bed, I sat in the living room trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. I had no idea how to get back to my old life, or even if I wanted to. Mick's life had been lonely, boring, purposeless. This life, for all its complications, had meaning. I was taking care of someone who needed me. I was making a difference. 3 weeks in, and I can honestly say I don't want to go back. Yesterday, while we were having breakfast, Molly made one of her innocent observations that completely floored me. "Mommy, do you think you'll get a boyfriend soon?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "Why would you ask that, honey?" "Because you're so pretty and nice now, and then maybe I could have a daddy too." The simplicity of her logic was heartbreaking and hopeful at the same time. She wanted a family, a real family, and she saw me as the path to that. "Would you like that?" I asked. "Only if he's nice like you are now," she said seriously. I found myself actually considering it. The idea of dating as a woman was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Everything about this life was so different from what I'd known. This morning, I was getting ready while Molly played in her room, and I caught myself taking a selfie in the mirror. Not for social media, just because I liked how I looked. The confidence in my expression, the way the dress fit, the fact that I finally felt comfortable in this skin. I'm not the same person who witnessed a neglectful mother 3 weeks ago. I'm not even the same person who woke up in this body that first morning. I've become someone new, someone better, someone who has a purpose. Molly deserves a mother who pays attention to her, who cares about her well-being, who makes her feel loved and important. Her real mother couldn't do that, but I can. I don't know if I'll ever understand how this happened or why. Maybe it was just some kind of cosmic justice, giving this little girl the parent she needed and giving me the meaningful life I'd been missing. All I know is that when Molly runs up to me and says, "I love you, Mommy," I've never felt more sure of anything in my life. This is where I belong.